Let's talk about something serious. Not a mental illness you can see, but a mental illness that has become a full-blown global pandemic. And its name? Mediocrity. Today, we're going to dive deep into why we settle, how our own biology actually works against us, and, most importantly, how to break free. We'll use the science of willpower and the absolutely incredible story of David Goggins to show you how. This quote from Socrates, man, it just hits you, right? It perfectly sets the stage for everything we're about to cover. It's this profound idea that we could live our entire lives and never even get a glimpse of what we're truly capable of. So let's figure out what's holding us back and how we can finally start to unlock all that hidden potential. First things first, let's be crystal clear about what mediocrity really is. This isn't about being average on a bell curve. No. This is a mindset. It's that good enough attitude. It's the habit of giving up, of running for comfort the second things get difficult. It's a disease of the will. And honestly, it's become terrifyingly normal. So here's our game plan. We'll start by pulling the mask off this mediocrity pandemic. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty science of why our brains are literally wired to trap us in comfort. From there, we'll take a journey with David Goggins to a place that exists beyond pain. We'll learn why changing our identity is so much more powerful than just getting motivated. And then, we'll give you a concrete 3-step action plan and leave you with a massive choice to make. Okay, let's talk about this pandemic. It's built on a very simple, very dangerous lie. The lie that good enough is a worthy goal. I mean, think about it. We're conditioned to find a job that's just comfortable enough, to study just enough to get by. We have made comfort our god, and it is a trap. And there's a story from David Goggins' office that just illustrates this perfectly. So picture this. A 25-year-old guy comes to Goggins for advice. He's listing off all his problems, his weight, his dead-end job, but Goggins saw right through it. The real issue wasn't the job or the number on the scale. It was way deeper. This young man had built a habit of quitting at the first sign of struggle. He'd completely surrendered to comfort, and in the process, he'd lost the confidence to face any real challenge. But why? Why is this so common? Are we all just weak? Not exactly. The truth is, our own biology is often plotting against us, and this brings us to what we can call the frog brain bias. You see, your primitive brain, your limbic system, could not care less about your dreams or your ambition. Its one and only job is survival. It's hardwired to keep you safe by saving energy and avoiding anything that feels risky or uncomfortable. So when your alarm goes off at 4 a.m. for that workout, it's your frog brain whispering, "No, stay in bed, it's warm, it's safe." You're not just lazy, you're literally fighting your own biology. And here's where the science gets really fascinating. Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman has found what he calls a willpower muscle in the brain. It's a region called the Anterior Mid-Cingulate Cortex. Now, in people who constantly push themselves, think elite athletes, Navy SEALs, this part of the brain is big and strong. But in people who live a life of comfort, it's smaller. It actually shrinks. The takeaway here is huge. This muscle only grows when you force yourself through discomfort. If you're not facing challenges, a part of your brain is literally withering away. So how in the world do you fight your own biology? Well, you have to be willing to go to a place that most people will never see, a world on the other side of pain. And this brings us to the centerpiece of our story, David Goggins' completely unhinged decision to run a 100-mile ultramarathon with basically zero training. Just let that number sink in. 160 kilometers. That's almost 4 marathons. Back to back to back to back. He didn't do this to win a medal. He did it to find the absolute breaking point of his body and his mind. And trust me, he found it. After about 12 grueling hours at the 112-kilometer mark, his body just quit. And I don't mean he was tired. I mean total system failure. This was the moment where 99.9% of human beings would and probably should stop. Just look at this. This isn't an exaggeration. His kidneys were shutting down. He was literally peeing blood. His lungs were filling up with fluid. He had stress fractures in his legs. Every single rational thought, every biological signal in his body was screaming at him, "Stop, or you are going to die." He sat there for 4 hours, completely broken. Motivation was gone. There was nothing left. But then, something changed. It wasn't a positive thought. It wasn't a motivational quote. It was a raw, primal declaration of who he was. In that pit of total despair, he didn't find motivation. He hammered out a new identity. And what he discovered in that moment of hell is what he now calls the 40% rule. It's this: when your mind is screaming at you that you are completely done, that you have absolutely nothing left in the tank, you've only actually used about 40% of your real potential. Your mind is hiding a 60% reserve tank from you just to keep you safe. And this brings us to the single most important lesson of all. Goggins is famous for saying, motivation is garbage. And you know what? He's right. Motivation is an emotion. It comes and goes. To make real, lasting change, you can't just rely on feeling motivated. You have to fundamentally change who you are. This leads to a really deep psychological truth we can call the pain paradox. See, the more you run from discomfort, the more you're going to get beaten down by life's random problems. But if you choose your own hardship, if you voluntarily get under the squat rack, take that ice-cold shower, tackle that difficult project, you build a kind of mental armor. The unavoidable suffering of life starts to lose its power over you because you're already in the habit of choosing to do hard things. So here's the bottom line. Motivation is like gasoline. It's temporary fuel. It burns up fast and then it's gone. Identity is the engine itself. You have to stop waiting to feel like doing the hard things. You just have to act based on the identity you've decided on. Goggins didn't finish that race because he felt motivated. He finished it because he decided he was the kind of person who doesn't quit. Period. Okay, theory is great, but how do we actually do this? How do you start breaking the cycle like today? Let's get super practical. Here is a clear 3-step action plan you can start using the minute this is over. Step 1 is what Goggins calls the accountability mirror. You have to stop lying to yourself. Stop calling it self-care when it's really just avoidance. Tonight, I want you to go to a mirror, look yourself dead in the eye, and have a brutally honest conversation. You're soft. You're wasting your talent. Real self-love isn't coddling yourself. It's loving yourself enough to demand more from yourself. And here are 3 rules to live by. 1. The hell yes or no rule. Stop setting safe, boring goals. If your next goal doesn't both terrify you and excite you at the same time, it's too small. 2. The 40% push. The next time you're studying or working out and your brain says, I'm done, remember you're only at 40%. Just push for 5 more minutes. That tiny little act builds that willpower muscle. And 3. Kill the victim. Your past, your circumstances, they're real, but they are not permanent excuses. Take ownership. That is the first step to everything. So ultimately, all of this boils down to a choice between 2 very different futures. And I want to leave you with a pretty chilling scientific experiment that shows exactly what's at stake. Back in the 60s, a scientist created what he called Universe 25. It was a literal mouse paradise. Limitless food, no predators, perfect climate, 0 struggle. You'd think they would have thrived, right? Wrong. They became lazy, they stopped reproducing, their society completely broke down, and eventually, the entire population just died out. Comfort didn't save them, comfort killed them. This experiment proved, scientifically, that without struggle, living things, they just rot. And that leads us to the final and most important question. The real choice between heaven and hell isn't about some afterlife. It happens right here, right now. Because on your last day, 2 people are going to show up. The person you became and the person you could have been. If there's a huge gap between those 2, that is hell. But if they're one and the same, if you know you squeezed every last drop of potential out of your life, well, that is heaven. The choice is yours.